Best of R / Tales from Retail episode 123. Subscribe for Reddit videos daily. At least I know where I am. I have been working retail for 3 years now, and a lot of stuff has happened to me. Most of it wasn't nice. But this really took the cake. A bit of background info. Last month, my store put restrictions on certain items. You are only allowed to buy a certain amount of each item, and disallowed the use of coupons completely. Also, we're a discount store, so most of our stuff is already pretty cheap, and we normally don't hand out coupons. Into this family, they consisted of a man, a woman, and a child. When they came to my register, they had 2 shopping carts that were overflowing with stuff. They seemed pretty nice at first, and even though they had so much, they didn't have more than the allowed amount of each item. Nevertheless, it was still a big order, and it took me a while before I could wring it all out. The first issue was that the woman and the child wanted to take the carts to their car before paying. Needless to say, that is not allowed. You can't take unpaid merchandise and groceries out of the store. They were pretty antsy and mean when I told them that, making side remarks about the policy, but in the end, they stayed. Then, the father handed me a handful of coupons. Like I said, our store rarely hands out coupons, so I don't know how they got that much. Secondly, coupons are not allowed anymore, due to the restrictions. I pointed out that they couldn't use the coupons, and more than half of them weren't even from our store, so even if it was allowed, they couldn't redeem them. Boy, that pissed them off. The dad got angry and told me to honor these coupons, as they made quite a big trip and couldn't afford everything otherwise. He also argued they would do it at our rival store all the time, and didn't understand why our store wasn't following their example. We argued for a good minute or so, because I obviously can't do that. My manager overheard us, and came to us, only to repeat what I had said. We offered them to take back some stuff so that it would fit in their budget. They didn't want to. They told us that they would complain to the head office of our rival store, and complain about our bad service. Then, they threw the coupons on the ground, and left our store, leaving 2 full shopping carts behind. I wonder what the complaint to our rival store did. If you want to complain and use coupons, you should at least know where you are. On a side note, I needed to restock their carts. I hate my job. Thank you. Next. Guy said her car was only worth $2,000 because of a squeaking door. Hey guys. Long time lurker. First time poster. I used to manage a oil change shop. I was actually working by myself that day as I had the slowest store in the company. I had an older Chinese lady, probably mid to late 60s, pull into my parking lot in a decent looking car. She spoke some English, but you could tell it wasn't her first language. She seemed upset. Now this happened at least like 8 or 9 years ago, so I don't remember specifically what was said, but this is roughly how it went down. Me. Hi, how are you? Lady, can you help me? Me. Sure, what can I do for you? Lady, guy said car is junk, and will give me $2,000 for it, and IDK what to do. So I take a gander outside and see her car. It was a 5 or 6 year old VW Jetta. Not new by any means, but looks worth more than $2K. Me, what's wrong with it? Lady, it's running rough, and the door squeaks. So I take a look under the hood and the mass airflow sensor was unplugged. Plugged it back in and applied some WD-40 to the hinges. Start it back up and it runs perfect. I went back inside and told her I fixed it, but I wanted to blue book her car for her so she knew what it was worth. Car came up and as being worth about $7,500. I told her that guy was trying to rip you off and not to trust him. She told me that a guy she brought it to told her that the engine was junk and it was only going to get worse, and that her door was about to fall off. Whoever this was clearly saw she knew nothing about her car and would be easy to manipulate, and tried to flip her car for a nice payday. I told her your car is fine and if you need anything you come and see me. She started crying and gave me a hug and went on her way. Didn't charge her a dime. Coolest moment in my many years of customer service. Thank you. Next. Lady yells at me for calling her daughter fat. I, 23F, work at a clothing store and this happened about 2 years ago. I had 3 customers left before I could start closing the store and go home. There was a mother and daughter, and then another lady. The daughter, 18/19 years old, walks up to the counter and her mother walks off to go look at something. She places a shirt on the counter, which was size large, and asks me if we have an extra large as she doesn't think the large one will fit her. I scan the item and let her know that we do and that the system is telling me it should be on the rack. She said thank you and that she will go have a look. I was about to ask the next customer to come up to the counter when all of a sudden I hear, "Did you just call my daughter fat?" I was so confused. When I was talking to her daughter, the daughter was so nice and polite and thanked me for helping her. There was nothing off about it. Me, oh, no, yes you did. You told her she needed another size. Me, no, I didn't. She asked for a larger size and I told her we have it. So my daughter is lying to me? Me, I didn't say that. I said she asked for a larger size and I said we have it. I can't remember her exact words but basically she went on a rant, yelling across the counter, that went along the lines of, "How rude I am, look at you, do you think you're anything special, you should be ashamed and how dare you." This whole time, her daughter is standing right next to her, not saying a single word. I was still so confused by the whole situation and ended up going into the stock room to cry. Thank you, next. A kind man. Okay, so this happened about a year ago and decided to share it now. I'm a cashier at a grocery store. I was just finishing ringing through this lady. "Your total is $15 XXX. She proceeds to pay with her debit. On my register it said that her card was declined. "Oh, your card was declined. Do you want to try again?" "No, I will just pay with my Visa." "Unfortunately we do not accept Visa. We only accept MasterCard debit or cash." To his her face went from embarrassed to forlorn. "That is all I have with me. I can have your order suspended so that when." Then this nice man that was next in line cut me off, saying that he would pay for her groceries. After a good few minutes of them going back and forth he eventually won the debate and paid for her groceries. Thank you. Next. Customer is outraged he has to pay to get something picked up from his place. So where I work, it is a multi-store ownership. Our other store sells things like plywood etc. Oftentimes, our store becomes a middleman for the other store which is a pain. A lot of people like our services because our other store only charges $5 for delivery. Same price to pick something up if they wish to return it. So I had a guy phone, saying he bought plywood from our other store, but didn't use it all, and asked if he could have the other store come pick it up. I told him yes, it would be no trouble, but there was the $5 charge that would be deducted from his return. He says that's outrageous. I see your trucks drive by all the time. It's not gonna take much for him to just come and get the plywood. I told him that it's what our owner set as policy, and that it's not that simple. If he has other orders on his truck, he has to make sure there is room for the plywood. Plus, he has to make sure it is properly strapped down and secured. All that takes time and money, so that is why we have to charge the $5. He says I'm not paying $5 for that. That is outrageous. I told him he can drop it off here at the store itself, and he will get the full refund back. He goes fine, I'll do that, and he promptly hung up. I saw him a little later returning the plywood. Not to be insulting, but he looked like your typical cranky old guy who had a permanent frown on his face. Thank you. Next. Thrift bike buyer a whole customer. Context: I work at a fairly low scale store. Step above a thrift store as we get ether return/overstock from other companies. Some cheaper business will buy from us given our low prices and ether turn over what they bought or just buy stuff for parts. Now we put out a fairly large selection of bikes, about 15-20 a day. Quality is always a fee, so we get asked a lot about when we're putting out the next one. We usually try to stock the bikes either before we open or when the store is less busy so we don't have people swarm us. For the sake of this post I'll call the guy Josh. It's late in the afternoon, fairly slow, so not a lot of customers, so my manager asks me if I could get some bike skids from the back. Now the one I brought out had some of the nicer bikes, the ones that are in boxes and are usually not missing parts. As I drop the skid, Josh comes up to me and asks if he could buy some of the bikes before they are properly put on the floor. I said he had to wait. His store policy made sure that the bikes were in the proper place before they could be sold. He was okay with this and waited patiently for me to unload. Before I go to the back, I'm asked by some of the other customers who saw me unload the skid if I had specific types of bikes. I told them I will check and if so bring some out. Personal note: a couple of the freight people including myself at the store hate when people come in and just buy all the good stuff in bulk. They'll come in, buy the expensive products that would sell anywhere, and that's it. It just makes the store look like it doesn't get any good products, which frustrates me when I get asked the same question 10 times a day because some jerk came in and bought all the good stuff and left nothing for anyone else. I pick out the second skid trying to get some bikes that the other customers wanted. Start moving away from the employees area, and as I round the corner I run into Josh. He looks over the second skid and says, "I want these two," pointing to two of the better quality bikes. I told Josh that he had to wait and that he couldn't just pick the bikes out this time since there were more people and everyone had to get a turn to view them, as it was against store policy to pick out stuff before they were even on the floor. He did this the entire way to the bike section, slowly getting on my nerves the whole way. Josh keeps pestering me asking why not while I was bringing the bikes up to the other customers, as he was a customer and it was my job to serve him. I just reiterate that it was against store policy and wouldn't be fair to the other customers. Now when I finally went and tried to put the bikes floor and had to get help from another employee, as this time there was a bigger crowd and we had to have everyone stay 6 feet away per store policy, Josh would not listen and tried numerous times to grab the bikes from the skid or even out of our hand before they were properly put on the floor. He kept pestering us saying where he couldn't just pick up the bikes and buy them. Having to be told it wasn't fair to the other customers if somebody just grabbed the bikes and brought them without them getting a chance to see it. I wanted to punch him after that, as he held no respect for us as employees and thought that as customer his word goes. Afterwards I was asked about the incident from my manager, as he apparently complained about me to him. Later on I found out that he owned a bike through my co-worker that helped me and probably bought the bikes for parts. Thank you. Next. No mom, we don't have any cow blood. So, first time posting here. On phone. So I was an apprentice at this food store and I worked as a butcher. So I was the guy that packed and cut the meat in the store. These are the players of the story: me, CW, co-worker, and L, angry lady. I had just started around a week prior to this event. We were 4 people who worked at the meat section and it was kind of late, so it was just me and CW left. I got tasked with restocking the shelf with packages. I did that and after a few minutes Al approached me. Since I sat on my knees I stood up to greet her. The conversation went like this. Rough summary. Me. Hello. How may I help you? Al. Do you have blood? Me. What kind of blood? Al. Blood. I'm going to make blood pudding. Some Swedish food. Pretty good NGL. Me. Oh yeah, pig blood then? Al. No, cow blood. Me. I'm not sure actually. Al. Are you not a bit slow? Find someone that can help me maybe? So I went to the butcher area and I found that CW wasn't there. He had went up to the store manager. So I went back to Al. Me. I'm sorry mom. It looks like I'm the only one here at the moment. Al. No, you're way too young. Me. Mom. I'm new here and I'm sorry that I can't help you. If I could take your number, maybe CW could give you a call when he comes back. Al. Screw this. If you're not doing your job then you shouldn't work here. She then walked away and I was really scared that she might talk to the manager. She didn't. Well, CW came back after maybe 15 minutes and we closed our section for the day. I told CW about what had just happened and he just told me not to care about customers like that. She did call the store the next day, just to ask if we had any cow blood. CW told her no and that was it. This was the first time I was scared by a customer. I turned used to stupid questions and people asking me what they should cook, etc. Stupid. We who worked there called them stupid just because we knew that pretty much in our heads. I never ever got used with rude customers though. It was fun to hear people scoff and call me slow at stocking at me when I restocked the shelf and then see them turn a bit pale and a bit more polite when I stood up and greeted them. I was at the time around 6'0", dressed in a white shirt, hat and grey pants that were usually covered in blood.